Hello everyone, welcome to Carrie's Crochet and Craft. It's been a year. About a year since I last posted. So life got a little crazy and I kind of dropped making any videos at all for this channel and for my farm channel. Of course, my farm channel I haven't really posted to since even before I was posting videos for this channel, but I thought I'd do a little catch-up video with you guys to catch you up on my life and why I haven't been posting. So yeah, if you want to sit down and relax and crochet or do some other crafting while I share my story for the past year, go ahead and settle in. I thought I'd work on my latest project and just do that while I talk to you. I don't know how long this will take, a whole year's worth of stuff. So let's just get to work. First of all, what project am I working on? So part of this last year was being introduced to my oldest son's girlfriend. It's his first girlfriend. He's 20 and she is 19 and he is her first boyfriend as well. And that's part of my year. This is a good part of my year. So they were both freshmen this last year at our local university, and they met the week before school. They have a jumpstart program at our school to introduce kind of the freshmen and new students, just kind of get them acclimated to how the college works and all that kind of stuff. Just, you know, an intro week, and then all of the rest of the students come the next week. So they met during that week, and they officially then became a couple beginning of December. And then it was just probably a couple months later, I was talking with my son, and I mentioned something about, oh, you know, is she the one? And he pretty much indicated that he felt that she is the one, that they would probably likely get married someday. And so that put me into crochet mode, and I started making what will be an engagement gift for them. And then I have another pattern by the same lady, and that will be their wedding gift. There are no plans for a wedding yet. No plans for an engagement yet. Because, well, there are reasons why they aren't going to get married too soon, but maybe we'll get into that later. But first I want to share with you the pattern that I found. I'd found this pattern before they got engaged, or they started dating. I don't remember when I first saw patterns by this by this designer, I guess. I don't even remember where I first saw them, but I fell in love with her patterns. They're Granny Smith squares, and yeah, Granny Smith squares, and then the Granny Smith stripes. So the pattern that I chose of hers, so first of all, it's Marian Mitchell, and her business is called Wool Thread Paint. I think she's in Great Britain somewhere. I don't know if it's Scotland or Ireland. It might be Scotland. I'm not entirely sure. I've seen some of her videos where she talks about where she's from, but I'm drawing a blank now. Anyway, Great Britain or over there somewhere. And so I ended up actually buying several of her patterns on Etsy. She has some free patterns. In fact, that's probably how I first found her. She had the I have it right over here. Let me get it. Whoops. Let's see. Oh, I didn't bring it in here. Anyway, I had found her through a free pattern that she was giving away, and I just fell in love with her patterns. I didn't know I liked Granny Smith so much, but Granny Smith. That's an apple, not a crochet stitch. I didn't realize how much I liked granny squares until I found her patterns. And I mean, I've done them before, but never really fell in love with them. But I love her color combinations, just beautiful. So Marian Mitchell of Wool Thread Paint, and this one is called Beach Walk. It's one of her larger blankets. Let me see if it says in here how much it's supposed to be. 56 inches square. And she uses DK yarn, and this particular pattern calls for Stylecraft Special DK. And then a sheepish color crafter yarn, one color from that, and a Daramore Studio DK, which actually that one I couldn't find, and so there was an alternative of a Stylecraft Batik, which she also uses several of in this pattern. So anyway, I've not used DK yarn much. I tend to prefer the thicker yarns where things work up a lot faster. But I'm really liking how the blanket has size to it, but it's not heavy. So let me show you what all I have done so far. So if you see on here, you can see there's this center portion which is lighter, and then this darker portion, and then this round right here of Granny Smith minis. I'm done with all of that except for some end tucking in. So I'm on this round right now where I'm making, I think it's 52 granny squares. Yes, 52. They're 4 round granny squares, 52 of them, and they're all different. Like the color pattern on each one is different on each one. I think that's one thing I like about it, is it's not the same square over and over again. It's like the colors are in different orders on all of them, like all of them. It's beautiful. So let me show you what mine that I have done so far. And I can only show you, I'm not going to stand up or show it all right now, but perhaps I can get some footage later to show you. But aren't those colors just beautiful? We've got these pops of this is a tomato, kind of a tomato red, and then a mustard yellow, I forget the name, yeah, mustard. But then you've got these pale, you got peach and lavender and kind of this mint green. Just beautiful. And it's not heavy. So I think I like working with DK yarn now. So I have the yarn, of course, to make this one, and then I have the yarn to go ahead and make the one that will be the wedding gift as well. So this is the project I'm working on. This is what I'll work on while I'm chatting. So I have this many squares done of the outer portion. How many is that? 14 squares done so far, so I'm on square 15. So yeah, let's get to this, shall we? So I need biscuit. So what did life bring me? So I had done an update for the last Friday market, I think, that I did over in Tri-Cities, and I was all set and ready to tell you that I had been invited back to an event that I did in a smaller town. It's a pioneer festival. I had done it 1 or 2 years previous and really liked it. And so I went back to that, and I did pretty good. And I think I have the numbers somewhere, but I didn't look them up before this, so because I wasn't really going to do a market update, just catch you up. So anyway, I was re-invited back for that, and then I did a couple other, let's see, 1, 2, 3, maybe 3 or 4 like holiday bazaars, and I did pretty well. My goal last summer had been to make enough money to pay for my son's music trip, and I earned enough to pay for that, and that left us in budget-wise with enough money to cover his tuition otherwise. He goes to a private high school, academy is what we call it. And so the band trip was to Hawaii, and it cost a lot of money, more money than we typically have the money for. So my goal had been to make the money to cover that, and I did. So that's where I was with that. In September, my thumb started hurting. Oh, I should bring in the project I was working on that I think was the culprit. First of all, it took me a while to figure out what was wrong with my thumb. I thought, oh, I just strained it or something. I don't know. I pushed on it or something. It's hurting for some reason. And it took me like 3 weeks before I finally looked up what could it be. And so looking at the possibilities, I thought it could be, I thought arthritis was one of them. My mom had rheumatoid arthritis. Is that right? Rheumatoid arthritis. And so I was afraid that I was going to be getting arthritis as well. And the other thing I thought it could have been was, what it ended up being, trigger finger, only in my thumb, so trigger thumb. So being as we didn't have a whole lot of money, we have insurance, but we have a large deductible. So I didn't want to go see a doctor about it. I thought, well, if it's arthritis, I'll start taking some herbs to see if I can counteract that. I'll do some hot and cold water therapies, and I'll get a hand brace. So I got the hand brace, and of course they say not to wear it all day, every day, but I probably should have been, because that probably would have helped me a lot sooner. But the one brace that I did get from Amazon was chintzy. I mean, it had good length on the thumb part, but the Velcro didn't stick very well. So anyway, I went in to see my doctor finally about it, and she didn't know what was wrong with it, so she sent me for x-rays to see if it was fractured, because that was another thing. I thought maybe I had sprained it or something. I didn't remember falling on it or anything, but anyway, trying to remember when I went to see her. I think it was probably in either December or January at that point. Probably, yeah, I can't remember. I could probably look it up on my calendar if it were that important, but it's not that important. It was more like January, I think. So I had some x-rays done. Actually, it was probably a lot later than that. It's probably February or March, actually. Had some x-rays done. They said they didn't see any sprains or fractures or anything, but there was a little bit of arthritis like down in here. But most of my pain was here and then, of course, here. So finally got in to see a hand specialist, and he was with me for like 30 seconds, and he's all, oh yeah, that's trigger thumb. Gave me a cortisone shot. Yeah, one of those shots. Very strong anti-inflammatory. Gave me a shot, and within 2 to 3 days it was feeling so much better. I still had a little bit of residue of like the thumb sticking. So anyway, because my thumb had been hurting, I just thought I'd overdone it, so I stopped crocheting a whole lot. So being able to fill my inventory for selling at events was hard to do because my thumb was hurting. I didn't not crochet, but I held back a lot more than I normally would have. So I did crochet a blanket, an Afghan for my oldest son. Since he was in the dorm room, he wanted his own blanket to curl up in, so I made him that. And then, what else? then I started in on this too. But for a long time, I wasn't crocheting at all. For several months, I just wasn't crocheting at all because my thumb was just hurting too much, and I didn't want to overdo it and make it hurt more. So yeah, for a while I wasn't crocheting, and it felt really weird after all the crocheting I did last summer. I think what had happened was I was working with some blanket yarn and just doing a rather tight stitch, because it's amigurumi, you know, making a stuffy. Want it tight. So I think I just overdid it with, you know, pushing the hook through the yarn and pulling it out and all that kind of stuff. So that kind of brings us through the beginning of this year that I've been gone. And the not too bad part of it. This year has sucked. I'm gonna try not to cry. So my mom, you know where this is going. Sorry, gotta gather myself for a moment here. My mom had been sick with Parkinson's for 8 years. And I just always, sorry, this is not going to be easy, but I want to share it. So gather myself here. My mom had been sick with Parkinson's, diagnosed about 7 years ago. And I didn't, you know, I'd heard of Parkinson's, obviously. I mean, if you know Michael J. Fox, you've heard of Parkinson's. And I knew that over time she would get shaky, and, you know, she'd get to a point where she might not be able to walk very well, would need a wheelchair. And that, you know, most Parkinson's patients die because of pneumonia or because they've fallen, and, you know, their health, because of shaking and whatnot, and then their health just kind of falls from there. I had gone to help my mom with some issues. She needed me to organize all of her passwords for the computer on October 30. And on that day, she just casually mentioned that, oh, she'd had some hallucinations recently. And I thought, oh, okay, because I thought it was due to the medication that she was on for her Parkinson's, to help with the shaking and whatnot. And I didn't think much of it. And then in the middle of November, my stepdad and she want to talk. For some reason, they wanted to talk with my husband and didn't have me come along, which I never understood why. I think I understand why, but I don't want to make, you know, wild guesses like that. So they called him over to talk with them, and basically my grandma was accusing one of my boys of doing something which they would have never done. And we were just like flabbergasted, like, why would she even come up with something like that? And so I started doing some research on Parkinson's and delusions. And that's when I found out that not a big portion, but there are a portion of Parkinson's patients who start to be affected by hallucinations and delusions. So we talked with my stepdad alone about it, and, you know, he hadn't really been keeping us updated on a lot of things, but we just kind of basically told him, you know, we don't really believe what she said about our son, and we think it's hallucinations or a delusion, because she can take one thing that happened that was real and then mix it with something that wasn't real, and of course it became real to her. And so we told him that, and he said that yes, he could kind of see how that would be. And anyway, I know I'm sharing a lot here, but that this was before Thanksgiving. That I didn't see my mom again. Actually, I'm not sure I saw her at all in November because I was mad at her making that accusation about my son. And so they live locally, and so I just didn't go over to see her. And then I forget what we did for Thanksgiving. Maybe I did, oh no, we went to my sister's house for that. So I get this text from her the Sunday after Thanksgiving saying, that she was just very tired and that she was praying for the Holy Spirit to take her, to let her rest. And well, that got me, just wondering what was going on. And so I just hightailed it right over to their house and I talked with her. And that's when I began to realize that she was just not doing well at all. And my stepdad told me that it was at some point in November. I don't know exactly which days it was, but he says that just one day she seemed to be fine, and the next day just the Parkinson had affected her brain, just to say she's not hungry anymore. She's tired. She's not hungry. So I want to tell lots of details, but I don't want to bore you guys either. Basically, throughout December, I began to realize that my stepdad needed help with my mom. And I started pulling back from everything. I had a part-time on-call job at our college proctoring aviation tests, and I told him I can't do this anymore. So at the end of December, I quit that, and we pulled back on the farm. I started selling off my chickens. I was gonna sell them all, but then one day I went to the store and saw that dozen eggs were like over $5, and I'm like, I think I'll keep a few chickens for ourselves after all. But I was just so, pulling in to, I don't know, emergency mode, or just like, I know what I'm gonna have to focus on for a while. So, yep, we had my last Christmas. Anyway. Just try to be matter of fact about this so I don't sit here bawling. But yeah, so in January I basically made it my job to part-time job, because I have the farm, I have my boys to take care of, but I really made an effort. I told my stepdad that I was going to come. He couldn't hardly leave the house to go shopping or even to go out to their shop, which is 20 feet from the house. My mom would get very anxious and just be calling for him. Where are you? Where are you? And she was having delusions and hallucinations. I was helping her once. My hands were like right here in front of her face, like I forget what I was doing, helping her get a bib on for eating or take one off or something, and she just started slapping at my hands, and I'm like, Mom, what? I'm trying to help you. And she's like, oh, I was trying to brush the spider monkeys off. Or monkey spiders. I think it was monkey spiders off. So she would see monkey spiders climbing all over the walls. The pillows on her bed one time were heads, and she wouldn't climb into bed until my stepdad took off all the pillows from her bed. And she started losing weight. So in December, she had been like 130-ish pounds in November. And then when the Parkinson's made that switch in her brain, she just stopped eating, and we were like every week we were processing and reprocessing just the changes my mom was going through. She was losing so much weight, she wouldn't eat. You know, we'd try to figure out something new she could eat. She started to be able to not chew very well. So things with a lot of thick texture. I tried making her pumpkin muffins, and she like ate one, and she's like, or part of one, she's like, oh, this is so good. And then I made her some cookies, and she ate like 1 or 2 bites of one, and then that was it. And you know, we had to move. We could get pineapple down her, we could get Jello down her. She would drink orange juice, and you know, she'd drink some things. It got to a point where, because she was shaking so much, she couldn't hold a cup, so we put straws in there. And anyway, she was losing about 5 pounds a week, and by the end of December she was, I think, 85, 90 pounds. I mean, that's a lot for 1 month. Maybe she was at 95 at the end of December. At the end of January, she was about 85, because in January she just kept continuing, and I honestly didn't think she'd survive past January. But let me get my next colors of yarns for my next square here. So I need heather. So anyway, about the same time as my mom made that switch in her health, I keep doing that, about the same time that she had that switch going on, my best friend's dad was diagnosed with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, for those of you who don't know what ALS is. And this man, you know, is my best friend since I was 10 years old. Sorry. So he was a father figure for me. Anyway, this is so sad. I'm sorry, but this is what my year has been like. Anyway, sorry. He was diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's. And sorry, my yarn's getting tangled here. Is this silver? This doesn't seem like silver. Let's see here. Heather silver. That's not the silver I want, though. Oh. There it is. That's the silver. Anyway, so not only am I going through, you know, my mom getting worse, my best friend is going through her dad getting worse. And her dad, oh my word, her dad has had Crohn's disease, which is, I mean, it's something that attacks your intestines, or your entire innards. If you know what Crohn's is, then you know what I'm talking about. If you don't know what Crohn's is, I mean, it's kind of hard for me to explain, but you can maybe look it up, CROHNS. He has, you know, for a good portion of his life, he's had Crohn's disease, and that's something that can bring you down, but he's so tough, you know? Crohn's didn't even get him down. That's what we like to say. Yeah, tough guy. So he was a trucker for many years, and always on the road, trucking, eating at truck stops, that kind of stuff. And so both of us are going through very difficult things. Yeah, I spent so long talking that my camera automatically stopped recording, so I'll try to pick up where it left off. So yeah, my best friend lived in a different state, quite a few states over from where her folks lived, so she wasn't able to be there as much as, you know, I was there for my mom. She was home for Christmas, so she did see him then, and then she also came home for his birthday and surprised him for that. And then she was planning to come back through the summer to help take care of him. So my best friend's dad, my mom, and then we have another best friend. And her dad had been declining in health for a couple of years, but they couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. And they looked, was it cancer? You know, it wasn't cancer. You know, was it this? Was it that? They couldn't find an answer. And so then when, sorry, I'm still gathering my yarn here. Heather Silver Vintage Peach. Okay. And then, mint. All right. So, yeah, so our other best friend couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. When friend number one's dad was diagnosed with ALS, friend number two read up on the not the ingredients, the symptoms of ALS. And she was thinking, well, that kind of sounds like what my dad has. It was like, okay, that'd be awfully weird. So she took it to his doctor. His doctor was all like, he doesn't have ALS. No, no, no. And that was back in probably January or February, right? Probably in February. So that she's told, nah, they're told, nah, it's not ALS. So they're still struggling. He's not able to eat much. He's stooped over. His stomach and stuff was hurting. He couldn't, I mean, he liked to eat yogurt. I don't know, there were very few things that he could eat, and he was losing a lot of weight because of that. And so, you know, they were struggling to figure out what was wrong. So now we've made it through January, and my mom's still plugging along, and I went over, you know, 1 or 2 times a week at this point, just for a few hours each time, just to give my stepdad time to run errands. You know, if he needed to go get food, or if he needed to go pick up a prescription, he couldn't go because she'd get too anxious. And so I went over so that he could get errands run, and started doing research on what kinds of tools that we could use with Parkinson's patients as they, you know, as they start to shake more. And for us, I mean, yes, there was shaking, but it was more the hallucinations and delusions that were causing problems than anything else. But I was trying to help find methods to make life easier. So like we got baby monitors to put, you know, one in her room back there, so that if Dwayne were out in the kitchen, he could hear her, and he could also respond to her through the monitor. So that eased his life a lot, because then, you know, if she was sleeping, maybe he could go out to the shop, he'd take the baby monitor with her, and so then if she woke up and called for him, he could just answer her, and then also just immediately come right in to help her. And that way she wasn't getting so, you know, anxious. Here's my other end to this. I don't like using the outer part. Anyway, so we muddle our way through January, and I mean, that's literally what we were doing. We were just like, oh, there it is. You know, what do we do next? What do we do next? What can we get her to eat? He was recording all kinds of things. Thank goodness. His former job, he was the head nurse of a medical, or not medical, the psych ward, that's what we called it. It's probably not the best thing to call it these days, but that's what they called it, the mental ward, the psych ward, for years. And so he was used to dealing with patients who were having hallucinations and delusions, and he was, you know, able to really keep on top of my mom's medication and take her to the doctors and whatnot. Oh, and that's the thing, is that my mom had seen her neurologist in, I think, November, and at that point she was fine, and it was like within a week after that appointment that she just made the switch. And at that doctor's appointment, though, the doctor had told him, oh, you're doing fine, this is great, we're going to look at maybe doing a deep brain stimulation program that's been proven to kind of help with Parkinson's patients. You know, you might be a candidate for that program. And so they left that meeting with the doctor feeling pretty good about things. Well, then my mom just had that switch with the hallucinations, delusions, and that stuff. And my stepdad tried to get her in to see her doctor because of this huge change. And the doctor wouldn't see her. Oh, no, we won't see her until her next appointment. Well, her meds aren't really doing the job with the hallucinations and stuff. Oh, well, we don't change the prescription until we see them in person. The next appointment was for March. And the neurologist wouldn't listen to the fact that my mom's health situation had changed. Sorry, this is not pulling out very nicely. Yay. So that was very maddening. That doctor just wouldn't do anything for us. So anyway, we muddle through January through February, and we're not sure how she's surviving, because she's drinking a half a cup a day, eating a teaspoon of food at a meal. You know, how is she living? We didn't understand how she was just holding on. But we got through the end of February, and I'm like, okay, we're coming up to March. My youngest son's birthday's in March. Her birthday's in March. And so I'm like, okay, please don't die on my son's birthday. Please don't die on my son's birthday. I knew she was going to die. So these 2.5 months that we'd spent going through life, every time I left the house, I'd be mourning and decompressing, because, while I'm there, I'm positive, I'm helping her, I'm doing what I can to ease her life, and every time I'm leaving, I'm mourning each and every time that I leave their house. And so anyway, I'm just praying, please, God, don't let her die on my son's birthday. And then she didn't. Well, we celebrated her birthday with him on his birthday, because their birthdays are just 9 days apart, a week and a half apart. And so then she lived. She didn't die on his birthday, so we celebrated her birthday on that day. And then she didn't die on her birthday, so we celebrated her birthday again. And then that Brent, my husband's mom's birthday was also in March, and that's also the day that Brent and I got engaged. And so then I was like, okay, don't die on the 19th. And she lived to then, but she was starting to get worse, and by this time we were hoping to, actually, I think back in January or February, we were trying to get her on hospice, but because of insurance and this, that, and the other thing, it took a long time for them to actually get hospice to us, or help have her get signed up on hospice. But anyways, she made it all the way through March. And then April came, and we got her on hospice at that point, and we knew she was not going to be long. I mean, I knew all along that she wasn't going to live. And part of me was just thinking during those months where we're trying to get water in her, trying to get food in there, I'm like, but why? We're just prolonging. She didn't want any extreme measures taken. She had a living will that said that. And it's just like, as humans, we can't not feed somebody, right? We can't not give them water. And so it was kind of just this conundrum for months. She's going to die. That's all there is to it. The Parkinson's affects her brain to the point that it tells she's not hungry, she's not thirsty. She's not going to live. And this was a harsh reality to face when all you want her to do is get better. And I prayed and prayed. I had a prayer vigil with all my friends and everybody who would pray with us. But that is not how God answered our prayers. I was praying for complete and full recovery from Parkinson's and from rheumatoid arthritis. But that's not how God answered our prayers, and that's okay. Because we're coming into some tough times here, and I think that God is letting a lot of people rest because they won't be able to go through these end times. But anyway, so into April, also dealing with a lot of other family issues. There's a couple family members that I just don't want to get into that, but just struggles with some other family members during this time. And anyway, finally got to a point where she stopped responding. She couldn't get her out of bed anymore, and anyway, she ended up dying in April. So at the end of December, the New Year's approaching, and you kind of think, oh, let's look forward to this new year. It's going to be a new start, we can redo things or start things fresh, whatever. And I just looked ahead. I looked at my mom and how it was going, and I was like, and by this time we knew about my best friend number one's dad, and knew that he was probably not going to do well this year. And so I looked ahead at this year, and I just made a post on Facebook, and I said, yeah, this next year is gonna suck royally. This is not gonna be a good year. And I was right. And I was telling my friends, I said, well, I called it back in January or December. I said, I called it. This year does suck. And they promptly told me that I wasn't allowed to call it anymore. I wasn't allowed to make predictions. Oops, that's the wrong one. And I said, yeah, I agree. I don't want to be right about these things. So anyway, my mom died in April. Then, of course, I told you my best friend was planning. Oops, I don't need that color anymore. My best friend was planning to come out in the summer because she's a teacher at a school and she has summers off. So she was going to plan to come out and help take care of her dad. And she surprised him for his birthday, which is in April, and then went back home, was planning to come back out at the end of May, beginning of June, and didn't last that long. He also died. Jeez. This is such a sad year, you guys. He passed away a month and a day after my mom did. So, then we had I should say also, a friend of mine from church, a few years older than me, she'd had cancer and was, I think, told in November she was like in remission. And then in December she ended up having a grand mal seizure. And then it just was downhill from there, and she ended up dying on the same day as my mom. She died in the morning, my mom died at noon. So double whammy that day. There were a couple other church members who also died that month. And so May was a month of memorial services, funerals. We call them memorial services because we didn't have their, the coffin wasn't there. Anyway, differences between memorials and funerals, I don't know. That's how I differentiate them anyway. So I had my friend's memorial service in May. I didn't go to the ones for the other two ladies. I didn't know them as well. My mom's memorial service was at the end of the month. My brother and his wife came down Friday of that weekend, and as soon as they got here, they got a call from back home. Her dad was in the hospital. Now, her dad has had a lot of health issues. He was exposed to Agent Orange in Vietnam, and so he has struggled with a lot of health issues since then, and he had diabetes and was legally blind, so, and by this time bound to a wheelchair, I do believe. So anyway, he had been taken to the hospital. I forget exactly what the cause was for why they took him. But so yeah, they get the call Friday night that he's in the hospital. My mom's service is on Sunday. So they're like, worrying about him while they're 5 hours away from home. And so they determined, they probably would have left that soon anyway, but as soon as my mom's memorial service was over, they left to go back home so that they could be there with her dad. And he ended up telling my brother at one point that he didn't think he'd be leaving the hospital this time. And he didn't. A month to the day after my best friend number one's dad died, my brother's father-in-law died. And this is a family that, because I am my brother's family, I am automatically part of their family, even though, it's my brother that married into their family. Our family was considered their family. And so, they've been married 27 years, and so, I haven't seen them that often, but, I could always, if I needed to, I knew I could count on them to come through for me if I needed something. And so that death hit me pretty hard as well. And then for my brother to lose his mom and then his wife lose her dad within 2 months of each other, that was pretty harsh. So what are we up to? Four deaths now? Yeah. We're not done yet. We're not done yet. So now we're dealing and reeling with all of that and the funeral services for all those. That's 4 funeral services in June. My grandma had died last December, so that was another thing. She died the day after my son and his girlfriend officially got together. So there's that. But my grandma was old, see. And when you're 94, or 93, 94, you expect somebody to die a little bit more than when they're 74. Especially in my family, all of my grandparents lived into their 90s. Most all of my great grandparents lived into their 90s. Maybe their late 80s. So we're used to longevity in this family. And so my mom was 74. My best friend's dad is about 10 years older than her, so a little on the older side, but still, not the age you expect. And then my brother's father-in-law was 75. Okay? This is not usual in our families. We're used to longer living than that. So then, so we get to my grandma's funeral. That's in June. I'm doing the math here. He died in May. So my brother's father-in-law died in June, and then my grandma's funeral was in June. So July, I was, so my best friend number 2 now, Her son plays the violin, and he plays with the youth symphony, and they had the opportunity to go to Europe for a month to tour around and then compete in some kind of competition. Really prestigious type of thing to participate in. It's like worldwide people coming. They placed second. Bravo. So they are getting set to go to Europe for a month. I know this video's long. I apologize, but this is what my year has been like. You don't have to listen to this all if you don't want to. But anyway, so best friend number 2 and her son are getting ready to go to Europe for a month. She takes her dad to an appointment to do some blood work, and so because they had seen the doctor, and the doctor finally said, you know what, maybe we should do some testing or do some more blood work. So they went to do the blood work, and the technician there let slip, oh, it looks like the doctor thinks it's ALS. This is the guy who they went to see the doctor with the symptoms saying, oh no, this isn't ALS, not at all, right? So now this is a different doctor. This technician says, oh, the doctor thinks it's ALS. So Jenny, my friend she didn't tell her mom. She went to Europe with her son, knowing that there was the potential that it could be ALS. Again, Lou Gehrig's disease. The test results weren't going to come in until a week after they had left, though. So she and her mom kind of made a game plan, like, if it is ALS or something happens to Dad while I'm gone, you know, do you want me to call you and tell you while you're in Europe? Do you want to be able to come home, or do you just not want to know until you get back? Well, I think they ended up just not deciding to tell the news. So they got the news, but they didn't tell my friend until she got back from Europe. So she'd been gone a month. They got the results on June 21. Yeah, June 21. And my friend got back 3 weeks later from that, and it was like the second day of her being back, and that's when her mom and dad finally tell her, yeah, he has ALS. So they've had a month to adjust to the fact that he has ALS at this point, right? 3 weeks. And so she was back. I think she came back on the Saturday sometime, and so she had Sunday, and then she was told Monday, or affirmed Monday, that it was ALS. By Wednesday night, he was somewhat responsive, or Thursday night. Friday, he was mostly unresponsive, and then Saturday, they had someone from hospice coming in to take care of medication and noticed his situation, and this hospice worker stayed, and he did not last the day. So, here we are. My mom and my friend in April. My best friend's dad in May. My brother's father-in-law in June. My best friend's dad in July. And later I found out from a Facebook post that the mother of another friend of mine also died that day of major heart failure. And she was also someone that I considered a friend. So, so that's 6 deaths in 4 months, you guys. And not just, you know, so-and-so's grandma died, or my random great uncle died. You know, these are serious, you know, close deaths. So I really called it when I said this year would suck. So needless to say, I was very nervous about August, because I had then more memorial services to attend. I'm not sure that I attended one in August, but when my second best friend's dad died, I went down the next day. She lives in Southern Oregon, and that's like an 8-hour trip for me. So I made arrangements with my boys, with my husband. I drove down there and on Sunday, and I stayed with her until Friday. I needed to come back. So I was there with her in their grief. And so yeah, I was there for 5 days. I came back home. My husband during this time was driving for a wheat farmer here, like 12-hour days or something like that. And so he was busy. And then our church, Adventists, they have Pathfinders, and the Pathfinders is like a kind of like a co-ed Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts combined. And they have a huge worldwide camporee every 5 years. And this summer was the year for that. And this is the first year our boys have been in Pathfinders. And so we're like, oh, you know, this will be really neat to go to the camporee. When we looked at going, my best friend number 1 and her kids were going. My best friend number 2 and her son were going to go. And then we have another friend from high school was going to be there with her kids. And so we thought, oh, this will be so great. The 4 of us all together at the camporee. This will be so much fun. It was in Wyoming. So anyway, I get back from my friends down in Southern Oregon on Friday. Our Pathfinder group is leaving on Wednesday because we were gonna go do some sightseeing before the camporee started. That was July 30, I think. 30 or 31, whatever that Wednesday was. I think the 30th. And Brent actually was going ahead of time because he was going to work on the newspaper that they put out daily while we're there. It's crazy. It's huge. There was 65,000 people gathered in this small town of Gillette, Wyoming, which has like 35,000 people in it. So it was crazy huge. So anyway, I get back. I have 4 days before we leave for Wyoming. And my husband's leaving on Tuesday. And I have been gone from my garden for 5 days. So the weeds were horrendous. And so I was trying to get at least some weeding done, like around the squash especially, so the squash could grow without being hindered too much by the weeds. So I was like mowing out there and laying down cardboard. And what else did I have? I had to pack for the 3 of us, myself and the younger 2 boys. We had to pack for 12 days of being gone. And, boy, that was crazy. So anyway, then we leave, go on the trip. In Wyoming at the camporee, there's storms that come through. And, you know, storms are fine. I don't mind camping in storms, but where we were camped was a culvert. So rain that fell down drained down into the valley that we were in, and while our campsite was up to the side a little bit, there was a river in front of our campsite where normally there was a little roadway, and other campsites were just washed out. And then we had another storm, and it was even worse. So, you know, there's just a lot of chaos going on, and I'm still grieving. And my friend number 1 was there, and she's grieving and dealing with a Pathfinder leader who didn't seem very compassionate and understanding about her situation. Best friend number 2 didn't end up going because, of course, she's dealing with her dad's death. They had a business together, and so the business was solely on her shoulders to run now, and she had a lot of catch-up to do from the month that she was gone, and her dad was sick and not being able to do the full job that he usually did. So she couldn't go. Her son did end up going, which was good. And then our other friend that was supposed to be there, they ended up dropping off their girls and then going off elsewhere in Wyoming to explore. So it didn't end up being the 4 of us. So that was disheartening as well. So then we get to the end of August, and you know what? Nobody died. Nobody died in August, but I still had 2 services to go to. My brother's father-in-law service was at the beginning of September, so I went over there to the other side of the state, which is a 5-hour drive. The whole family went, well, me and Brent and the 2 young boys went to that, and then we came back, and then the next weekend Brent and I left the boys with my stepdad, and we went down to Southern Oregon then we had a graveside burial service, and then on Friday, and then a church memorial service on Saturday for them. Yeah, so cut off of me again. This is a really long video, and I'm sorry. I think I might try to try to split this up a bit. But this is seriously what my life has been like this year, you guys. So I have actually done no vendor events this year. I kept thinking, oh, I should probably sign up for one of these events and try selling some of my stuff. I have some inventory from last year that's just sitting in the garage, you know. So for the last 4 weeks, for the last 5 weeks, I have not gone anywhere. I have literally said I can't. I'm tired of going places. I'm not going anywhere. So anyway, that's a catch up of our life, and yeah, it's been a year, and this is why I haven't been recording. I haven't hardly been crocheting except for this project and maybe a couple. Yeah, it's mostly been this project, and then I guess the other Afghan for my son. But I haven't had the mental capacity for it. It's been a hard year. So I don't mean to put a damper on your day, but thank you for joining with me for this long. To brighten your day for the next video, I have some box openings to do. I bought some yarn. Go figure. Like, I need yarn. So anyway, I have some box openings to share with you, and I will do those for you in another video. So thank you so much for joining me for the 2 granny squares that I was able to crochet while sitting here pouring my heart out to you. I'm really praying that the rest of this year, oh, I forgot. We made it through August without any deaths. And then in September, I got a text from a dear friend of mine. She moved away several years ago to Idaho. I've seen her once or twice. But she is someone who has a son about the same age as mine, and I used to babysit him. And so she texted me in mid-September and said that her mom was put on hospice after fighting cancer for 2.5 years. And then a week and a half later, she passed away. And so that was in September. So now we're in October, and midway through October, and hopefully we'll not have any deaths this month. But so far I'm dealing with 7 deaths this year, and if you go back to December, then it's 8. So anyway, my birthday is later this month, so hopefully we'll have some good stuff coming for that. Yeah, I'm gonna go now, and we'll see you next time. Bye.